gentlemen. Yes, Adrian is giving me a challenging task here to really give you a very up-to-date overview about what's really happening. But before I do that, I would like to basically go back and Paul just mentioned the key legislation which is driving the development of national renovation strategies, Article 4 of the EED. And if we read that carefully and if we interpret it in a certain way, I think there are two keywords in it. The first keyword is that we want to see long-term renovation strategies. And for me, long-term means a strategy which has a lasting impact and which is really reliable. And a strategy where you can really measure progress. So it needs to have targets. Because I think that reliability and the fact that we can measure progress are key conditions to achieve that second keyword, which talks about mobilizing investment. Because who would want to invest in a field which is rather uncertain, where the policy targets and the overall energy saving targets are not mandatory but only voluntary. So I think in order to really achieve and encourage member states to have reliable long-term renovation strategies, we need to look again at the overarching policy framework and the goal setting within the European Union. And we know that member states have to publish national renovation roadmaps in just a little bit over 6 months, by the end of April next year. But we also know that the Commission decided to not give any guidance how to really implement this Article 4. So we as BPIE decided, well, let's play, not really let's play the role of the European Commission, we wouldn't dare to do that, but let's try to give some guidance to the European member states, and we published our own guide last February, how member states could ideally develop a national renovation strategy. And we developed a 5-stage, a 5-step methodology. And this work is actually now the basis for our ongoing work in 3 member countries. We're currently developing shadow renovation roadmaps in Romania and Poland, and we'll start one for Bulgaria very soon. And the one for Romania we're going to release as a consultation document already in November. So let me just go quickly through those 5 stages or phases. What I want to draw your attention to is not so much the individual steps, because you can read them there, but what I want to draw your attention to is that a national renovation strategy has to be inclusive. And inclusive means it needs to create a consensus among all the stakeholders in the building sector. And you are all from the building sector, so you know how complex and complicated this sector is and how many diverging interests there are. So I think it's absolutely essential that a national renovation strategy is really inclusive and makes sure that all stakeholders are properly consulted and that their interests are taken into consideration. And a second key characteristic of this stepwise approach is that member states really need to analyze the full potential of renovating the building stock. And with full potential, I do not only mean the energy saving potential, but I actually also mean all the other benefits, whether they are economic benefits or health benefits, you know them all. And Renovate Europe introduced a really good study last year at last year's event on that topic. So it is key that the member states design policies that really deliver the full potential, taking all this into account, and policies that overcome all barriers. So to summarize, I think the national renovation strategies really need to develop targets, interim targets, to achieve that 2050 vision. I already mentioned we need to include all the building owners, whether they are private or whether they're public institutions or whether they are more of the commercial type. We need to include the entire supply chain. We need to mobilize banks and investors. And I think the financial service community has still not really recognized the full potential which is in that sector. And of course, we need to stimulate much more R&D. Though we know that with the existing technologies, we know that we can renovate the building stock to come to a low carbon or even zero carbon building stock. But we also know that there are still a lot of technical challenges, in particular when it comes, for example, to the renovation of our heritage buildings, where we don't necessarily want to change the full appearance. So R&D is still very, very important. Of course, the strategy needs to be consistent with the CO2 goals. We need to quantify all the other benefits. And a strategy is only good if it's evaluated and monitored, not only every 3 years, but throughout the whole period. And of course, it needs to meet the requirements of the Article 4. So that much as an introduction. Of course, Adrian, you asked me to give a presentation of where member states are right now. And we started a piece of research with the European network of the World Green Building Council. And the analysis we did is not a very hard scientific analysis at this point in time. We simply tried to interview national experts and industry experts. And of course, this is a evolving exercise, and I would like to share with you this health warning that anything I'm going to say is really preliminary, really based on conversations with individuals, because there is no obligation on member states to, present any information about what they're doing right now. They only have to present the strategy at the end of April, but until then they can actually do whatever they want behind closed doors. But we also know that a number of member states have done some work on this topic already, even before the EED was in place. There is a report on Spain. The Basque region has developed a really interesting renovation strategy. Ireland has one. And there is quite a lot of work that has happened in the UK as well. But so what have we really found? Well, I think just to mention a few of the countries, and I think they're in alphabetical order if I'm not mistaken. We're starting with Austria, but we're also starting with one of the leading countries, because Austria started already a process back in 2009 to address the issue. And if you look at the building market and the building sector in Austria, you can see that in the new build area, passive houses, low energy buildings have a very, very high market share. And there is really a very clearly defined target for the building sector to achieve certain savings. And the level which has to be achieved in 2020 is just 330 petajoules. And Austria also seems to know a lot about the economic impact, because they expect that 40,000 jobs will be secured or newly created through refurbishment measures by 2020, which is quite a high number given the relatively small size of the country. So Austria is really, I think, leading the pack in that, even though we don't know how their renovation strategy, which they will have to present to the Commission, will look like. Then Denmark. And I think I'll skip Denmark because we have Peter Bach talking about Denmark later, and I'm sure you will present the details of the process there. But again, I just wanted to highlight that Denmark already started early this year, early 2013, I think it was, a process, or no, actually even in September already, to develop a national renovation strategy, and I'm sure Peter will talk more about that. Moving to Finland. We know that the Ministry of Employment and Economy set up a working group on the issue already 1 year ago to prepare for the EED implementation. And what I find very interesting for Finland is the fact that there will be a strong focus on behavior, not so much, or not only on technology, but also on driving behavior, changing behavior of occupants, changing also behavior of investors, to really realize the energy saving potential. And Finland is working with the other countries in the Nordic Build project, with the other Scandinavian countries, I should say. And they have started a number of really collaborative stakeholder initiatives. Moving on to France, you may have all heard the announcement from the 19th of September, just a few weeks ago, that France wants to retrofit 500,000 houses, or housing units rather, I should say, housing units per year between this year and 2017. And that actually means that within 4 years, they want to triple the current renovation rate, which I must say I find quite daunting. It would, of course, spur economic growth in the sector. It would create a lot of new jobs. I just do hope that the French supply industry and the French workforce is really able to deliver that, because, well, tripling within 4 years is, of course, very daunting. But on the other hand, I think it is, of course, in the very spirit of the EED. And it is the kind of policy we need to see if we want to achieve the 2020 targets and, of course, the longer-term 2050 vision of a 80 to 90% decrease of CO2 emissions and energy. Germany, my own home country, is a difficult case because a little bit like Austria, if you look at the new build sector, very energy efficient houses are more or less the standard on the market, even though the regulatory environment does not require it. But when it comes to the renovation of the existing building stock, and despite the great KfW program, there is not a lot happening. The relevant ministry, the building ministry, has been announcing, I think for years now, that they're going to release a national renovation strategy. The last announcement which was made was that the renovation strategy should have been released last April or May. Obviously, it has not been published yet. My only personal hope is that with a new government in place, whatever it will look like, that there will be a new impetus on the topic, because to achieve a climate neutral building stock is an official target of the German government, and it's an essential element of the German energy transition, the Energiewende. And without that, without a comprehensive renovation of the building stock, the German Energiewende goals will not be achieved. I'll quickly go through Sweden. I'll rather go over it and stay a little bit with the UK because I have only 3 minutes left. It looks like the UK really has a strategy development team in place, which consists of many representatives from different relevant ministries. And there is a technical analysis underway. It is also relatively easy to do that because there seem to be a lot of really good data available about the building stock in the UK. And of course, it's not a completely new topic. The UK government has addressed the issue in various policy initiatives in the past. So I think there is good progress underway. A quick snapshot on a few other member states, to start with Belgium. Brussels, where we are, says they nearly completed their national strategy. And in Flanders, the strategy development is really underway. Unfortunately, we were not really able to find information from Wallonia, but maybe that's, or hopefully that's available rather soon. Hungary says they're in the final stage of developing the strategy. It's been under preparation already for more than 1.5 years. And so there is a lot of progress. And from Lithuania, we know a lot of support programs, in particular in financing energy efficiency. And the strategy is supposed to be released in line with the requirement. Poland says that the work on the national renovation strategy will only start now, or in the third quarter, while we're already in the beginning of the fourth quarter of the year. But they are quite optimistic that they are going to have it ready by the end of the year. And we hope that our project, which we're doing with a number of stakeholders in Poland, can actually help to speed up the process. In Slovakia, the Slovakian government says they definitely want to start working on it, but right now they're still merging databases and building basically, well, the basis for it. And with that slide, which is really not a qualitative analysis, but rather a quantitative analysis, where we simply counted where some of the member states are in terms of the different stages. This really just gives you an overview over a few of the countries I mentioned. Of course, a lot of countries are missing, but despite having identified all the right contact people in the member states, it has been still extremely difficult to find the right information. But we will not give up. Once the deadline has passed, as BPIE and together with the World Green Building Council, we want to publish a real analysis of what has been released by the member states, of what they are presenting. And so I can only announce that we're going to release that analysis probably in the second quarter of next year. And if you have any information at hand from your own home country, I'm of course very, very happy to get the information from you firsthand. So thank you very much for your attention.